This comes to life. It's not an electronic synthesizer, and that's where I have the most difficulty if we have kids in here, because when they will come down after the concert or the program is over, they'll ask where those sounds come from, and they really don't understand. This thing is the granddaddy of the synthesizer. The electronic keyboards that we have today that emulate all the musical instruments, it's all on here and it's all real.
If you break it down, the console is the equivalent of your controller or keyboard.
You have a set of voices here for the top manual called the solo. That stops here. You have all of these tabs control the accompaniment, which is the bottom keyboard. Then over here on your far left, you have the stops that the pedals play with the feet.
The pipe chamber is the equivalent of your sound module. They are two very distinct pieces. And today's synthesizers are designed pretty much in the same way. You've got the controller or the keyboard, and you've got the sound module, which generates the sounds electronically or sampled. However, this is all live, but it's the same concept. Pipe organs all operate on wind or air. There's a blower that generates the air pressure, what they call wind, which is fed through large pipes up through to the chamber where the pipes are located. When the organist plays the keyboard or the pedal board, that's basically just nothing more than a simple doorbell. When he pushes the key, it makes a contact close, which opens a valve under the pipe, and the air is let into the pipe and the pipe speaks. It's as simple as that.
Underneath the chests where the pipes, you see the regulators bouncing up and down. Those are the reservoirs that supply air to the pipes at a proper wind pressure. They just don't play on any, you just can't blow into one of these. They have to have a certain pressure of wind. They're voiced on a certain pressure of wind in order to speak properly. Overblow them and they fly off pitch, don't have enough wind, they're flat. This one happened to be a style 190 special. Which meant it had 8 sets of pipes, totaling 552 pipes.
They're anywhere from the size of a pencil to a coiled up pipe that would be 16 feet long if you stretched it out. As far as tuning it, it kind of happens with the weather change. When the weather gets dry and you have to turn the heat on, that makes them sound one way. You have to kind of adjust them to make them come back into pitch. And same thing when springtime comes around, a lot of rain, etc. That changes them the other way, so you have to readjust everything. I usually go through it twice a year or twice a season that it's used. Of course, every show I go over it and touch up anything that may have slipped a little bit. They are very sensitive to going out of tune.
It's an 8-rank instrument. Pretty average for this size house, but it sounds way bigger than it physically is, and it's matched for the house. And we've had people sit down at this instrument, other organists sit down at this instrument and just fall in love with it, just because it's so well matched for the house and is well maintained.
When it was originally put in, they had made a mistake in the installation. So they tried to cover it up by making the pipes a little louder. They had put the shutters in the wrong way. Because that's how you control the volume, by opening the wall to the audience. You can't change the sound of the pipe because it would change the pitch. So you have to have the volume of the chamber the same, and you just gradually open or close the shutter blades there to let the sound out. That's the only way you can control it. We came along years later and undid their mistake, and of course the organ was already turned up in volume, and it made it seem bigger than it was, which was a benefit. So that's why it sounds so big.
Church organs are a different breed completely. You can't play the kind of music you need for a silent film on a typical church organ.
This can emulate a church organ very well. I mean, it has diapason pipes and chimes and straight sounds that most church organs have, but church organs can't do what these can. Not even close.
Church, theater.
Almost all classical literature is played without any tremolo. It's what they call straight organ. theater literature is mostly all done with tremolo.
The tremolos were essential. For example, if you use the tibium, which is a set of pipes over here made out of wood, without the tremolo, with that beautiful tremolo, changes the characteristics. Besides the pipes, it also has practically every orchestral instrument attached to it, so one person can do the work of an entire orchestra. Wurlitzer and other manufacturers call them traps, or more popularly known as toy counters, because they had things like snare drums, bass drums, horses' hoofs. You could imitate the sound of a galloping horse. You had klaxon horns, ogle horns, bird whistles, tambourines, castanets. We could go on and on and on. And the tune percussions, why you had sleigh bells, glockenspiels, marimbas, xylophones, and all of these were the real instruments. When I want a snare drum, all I have to do is hit one. I've got a snare drum up in that chamber, or a live snare drum that will play. And there are tambourines for Spanish music, castanets, ticking clocks, tom-toms. You have westerns, cowboys and Indians. You have the glockenspiel, the real instrument. On this side, you have a little metal bar chrysoglot harp. And the hammers are felt covered, and they're striking metal bars to make that sound. You have the xylophone, sleigh bells, and chimes. For silent film effects, if we have a lot of cars in a silent film, we need to have a car horn. And if we have a train, fire alarm, have a person who rings the doorbell. They're all the real instruments, folks. They're not imitations. Unfortunately, a lot of classical organists still look down on theater organists, and I think with a bit of jealousy, because they can't do this, because most theater organists who are educated and have those techniques can play classical music as well as popular music, theater or jazz, anything, where a lot of classical organists have no concept of how to play